I wrote the text the way you write when you're trying not to sound like a problem. Please. I just need someone to sit with the kids tonight. Not can you, not I'm scared, not the surgeon says there were complications. Just sit, like it was nothing. Like I wasn't asking them to step into a moment that felt bigger than my body. The message sent with that quiet little whoosh, and I stared at the screen while the anesthesia thinned and my mouth tasted like metal. I told myself people were busy. I told myself they'd respond in a minute. They did respond. Just not to me. The family chat filled up with photos, Celadon grapes, glasses held up at arm's length, my sister's laugh frozen mid-sip. A vineyard sign I'd seen before, something about heritage. Someone else added a grape emoji. The messages stacked without ever touching my text, like a conversation walking past a closed door. I watched it happen and something inside me slide into place. Not anger yet. Something more instructional. A lesson about where I stood when things were inconvenient. The nurse came in softly, checking numbers, calling me by my last name like we were colleagues. She asked if someone was coming for the kids. I said yes, because of explaining the shape of my family. She nodded and adjusted my blanket, a kindness that required nothing from me. The hours stretched. Pain crept in under the meds, a deep ache that made time elastic. I kept my phone face down. I didn't ask again. That felt important, even then. If help came, it would come because they chose it, not because I begged better. No one came. A neighbor took the kids after school when I called her, voice low and careful. She said, of course. She always says of course. We're not close in the way people put in scrapbooks, but she shows up the way receipts do, exact, dependable. When I finally slept, it was with the knowledge that the night would be handled by someone who hadn't needed convincing. Recovery was slow. Slower than the doctor's optimism had suggested. Pain meds dulled the edges but sharpened memory. I noticed things: how I stopped asking when I'd be home, and instead asked who would be picking him up. How my daughter learned to microwave noodles and cleaned up without being told, eyes flicking to me, like she was waiting for permission to grow older. My family called once or twice, voices bright and disembodied. They said things like, "You sound better and let us know if you need anything," which felt less like offers and more like punctuation. I answered of short sentences. I was tired of translating. 3 weeks in, I woke to my phone vibrating itself off the tray table. 68 missed calls, a knot of voicemails, and then the Venmo request, sitting there like an invoice. 600 urgently. I laughed once. It surprised me. The anger came after, cold, clarifying. Not the kind that makes you type fast. The kind that tells you exactly what matters. I listened to one voicemail. My mother's voice was tight, breathy. She said there was a situation. She said they needed help now. She didn't mention the winery. She didn't mention my text. She didn't ask how I was healing. I set the phone down. Later that morning, a woman introduced herself as the hospital's patient advocate. She spoke the way people do when they've been trained to be heard, calm, specific, unafraid of silence. She asked about my discharge plan, about childcare, about who was authorized to make decisions if I couldn't. I told her the truth. That my family lived nearby, that they were not reliable, that my neighbor had stepped in, that I needed documentation, not assurances. She nodded and started outlining options: temporary guardianship papers, post-op home care covered by insurance, a schedule that didn't rely on anyone's goodwill. Her language was procedural, almost soothing. It was the first time since surgery that someone treated my life like something that deserved structure. That afternoon, she made a call I hadn't asked for but didn't stop. She explained, neutrally, what support I qualified for and what responsibilities fell to next kin if they wanted to be involved. There were forms. There were deadlines. There was no room for charm. My phone lit up again after that. The calls had a different tone now, confused, then indignant, then coaxing. My sister texted, "What is going on?" My mom wrote, "We're family," as if it were a password. I replied once. I said I couldn't send money without documentation. I said any assistance would go through official channels. I said my priority was stabilizing care for my kids and my recovery. I didn't mention the vineyard. I didn't mention the night I waited. The Venmo request expired. Over the next few days, the urgency rearranged itself. Suddenly people were available. Suddenly apologies appeared, abstract and well lit. I let them pass, Not because I was punishing anyone, but because I was done improvising my safety. When I was discharged, a home care nurse arrived with a clipboard and didn't ask me to perform gratitude. The kids adjusted again, folding this version of me into their understanding of the world. We ate simple meals. We watched quiet shows. We learned what help looked like when it wasn't theatrical. My mother sent another message weeks later. This one asked how I was feeling. I told her the truth better, not healed. Better, we don't talk like we used to. There's a space now where assumptions used to live. It's not comfortable, but it's honest. Power didn't swing back with a slam. It settled, low and steady, in the knowledge that I can build a life that doesn't collapse when people choose wine over presence. Sometimes I think about that original text, the careful wording, the way I tried to make myself small. I don't write like that anymore. If I need help, I ask plainly. If I don't get it, I make a plan. And when my phone buzzes late at night, I check it without fear, knowing that whatever it contains, I'm not waiting for someone to decide I'm worth showing up for.